Hello everyone!
Hello!
Welcome to the Channel Awesome panel!
Yay!
Yay! There's more of us this year than usual. So, let's introduce ourselves. I'm Film Brain, I do Bad Movie Beatdown, I do Projector, I do film reviews, and I'll pass the microphone right now.
I'm Diamanda Hagan. I yell at interesting films, complain about bad Doctor Who, tell you about obscure television sometimes, and recently I talk about fucking history.
I'm the Omega Geek. I have a podcast called Lesbian Talk. It's not porn. And occasionally I talk about children's television media in the 90s and early 80s.
I'm the Dom. I review adaptations, like book to film tie-ins, how well it worked. Not necessarily which one was better, just if it did it justice, that sort of thing.
I'm Mike. I review infomercials and films and do creative diets for a week and see how it affects me mentally and physically, which is not fun usually.
Is that all?
Yeah, that's all.
Any questions?
Yeah.
Has there ever been a review or a subject of a review you've done that has physically disturbed you, even if you didn't expect it to? You went in, you saw it, you reviewed it, and you just thought, wow, that made me kind of uncomfortable.
Is that for all of us or just Dom?
For all.
Stop. No, you get the money.
I've tried reading Fight Club a few times, and just the sheer level of despair and nihilism is just too much for me to handle. I've tried, it took me like 3 tries to get through it, but the film is fucking roses and happiness compared to the book, so that's one I just like, it's like, I can't do this, it's too much. Anyone?
There have been a couple of movies where I've been sort of worried about covering the content of them because they cover sensitive subject matter, I would say. I think that I've had a couple of movies I've had to do a projector that I've been sort of like, I don't know if I really want to do this one. It's a bit, touching on sensitive issues. I do remember I was quite disturbed by £7 back in the day, and I wasn't sure whether I was going to do that just simply on the basis of that, but I sort of powered through it, and I think a lot of people kind of liked that episode because I sort of talked about those things. Generally, I've not been too bad. I haven't gone for the really super disturbing shit, so fingers crossed I keep it that way, really. But I know someone who has seen all that kind of stuff.
Everyone's just waiting for you to start talking.
Generally speaking, my sense of being disturbed by a film has been violently burned out of my brain by years of watching this stuff. Generally, I'm more bored by it than anything else. It has to be something truly special to get that reaction from me. And not in a long time for anything that's finished. Maybe 1 or 2 that are coming up.
Next question.
Oh, okay.
One time.
Oh!
You look
so proud.
One time, my dear wife was visiting me when I lived in a flat in Baltimore and said, honey, she said, I have a film I need to take notes for. I haven't seen it yet. Will you take notes with me and we'll write humorous things and talk of days gone by? And I said, darling, for you, anything, anything. And I said, what's this film called? As we loaded up into my DVD player, she says, it's an indie film. I met the director on Twitter. It's called Where the Dead Go to Die. And I said, that sounds esoteric. That was my best Professor Mark Shevlin impersonation. And so we watched it, and the first sketch, it's CGI, kind of like a PS1 cutscene kind of deal. And the first scene is, the first vignette, if you will, is a lighthearted romp between a boy and his dog who talks frequently with the devil, and ends with the dog pulling the little boy's unborn brother out of the corpse of his formerly pregnant mother, and there's rape as well. And that's just the beginning. And
That's what it's like.
by the time we got to the part where we're seeing a boy with his conjoined twin growing out the side of his head, trying to make his neighbor suffer for the child pornography enslavement of his daughter, I kind of checked out. And so the movie ended, and I didn't know what to say. And so I had my laptop, I put on my favorite YouTuber, who's a guy, a Japanese guy who puts together little candy kits. It's quite nice. And she looked at me and she
One
said,
single tear.
I don't know why I was crying, just one tear. She said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "I'm gonna go watch Mythbusters on my tablet in bed. I'll see you tomorrow." And tell these good people what you did next that night.
This wasn't set up, but I was due to be on Radiodrome right afterwards, and the subject matter was disturbing films. So I got to talk about it. And that film, that was the roughest notes-taking experience I've ever had. I mean, I went in there completely unprepared. I mean, the trailer for this film is so bad. Rap Critic turned... I listened to him watch it over Skype, and he started screaming and turned it off halfway through the trailer. But... then my notes devolved eventually into "please just fucking end."
And we had the director. We had him on Lesbian Talk, and he seemed like a normal person. So.
Yeah, he's a really nice guy. He's such a nice guy. He sent me his next film and everything. It's much more traditional film and things. Perfectly nice guy. He just made an abomination of art.
I want to know what counts as traditional in compared to that.
Anything else?
This isn't really something directly related to something I reviewed, but your story kind of reminds me of how it was my birthday one year, and I got to go to the movies, and I was like, what should we go and see? And I decided to pick, you know what, let's go and see the Clint Eastwood movie, Changeling. If you've ever seen that movie, it's not exactly what you'd call a happy, fun times birthday movie, given that Angelina Jolie has her son kidnapped and murdered and then gets institutionalised and subject to electroshock therapy. That was not fun.
That sounds like my birthday.
Oh yeah, and then catch the killer and you get to see him hanged.
Yes.
Everything.
Yeah, it's graphic.
Yeah.
That was certainly a ruined birthday.
I watched Harry Potter.
Which part?
Next question.
I just love the group of three here that are used to this, and these two are just, oh crap.
Mike does seem more composed about it. If you could make a YouTube video with anyone else, like any personality, alive or dead, it doesn't matter who they are, who would it be?
Ooh, Jesus.
I will defer this one at first, I think. I need time.
I need time to think of this one too. It's got to be truly special.
Yeah. So, Don, would you be doing an adaptation review of Bible stories?
Yeah, why not? Yeah.
What was it like to
Well, you see, it was better in the book, you see. You really got the sense that Jesus was really suffering in the original book. You don't get the same sort of content. Like in the Passion of the Christ, because you don't hear his internal thoughts. It's like Jesus was actually thinking of blueberries the entire time. The flavour was ripping through the air. Lose a lot of the original literature. It's not good. Mike.
Who's dead from the infomercial world? Billy Mays, maybe? And his constant shouting about products. I've got no serious answer to this question, unfortunately.
I'd like to see you work with Barry Scott. I just want to see you two yelling at each other.
Just who can amplify the loudest in a room. Yeah. He would win, because he always wins.
If you're an alive person, you want just...
I want to meet Carl Sagan. Just go on, just keep talking. I'll just listen. That'll be the entire YouTube video. Him talking about anything like, oh my God.
I think I've worked on that. Okay, I've been doing historical videos recently, just a couple every so often, starting off with little lecture, documentary type things about the Victorian Arctic exploration, concentrating right now on the Franklin expedition. So I'd kind of like to do one of those history videos with the alleged last man standing from the expedition, because they all died Captain Francis Crozier of the Short Terror, because I figured he'd know more about what happened than, well, anyone alive. Because they all died, and we don't exactly know why.
I still haven't quite figured out an answer to this question. It's taken me ages, and I'm just sort of thinking. I would love to sort of meet the sort of actors that have sort of passed, and So I was thinking, like, maybe Alan Rickman. Like, I really loved Alan Rickman as a performer. I was really sad when he passed, and apparently my sister-in-law bumped into him in a shop once, or at a theatre, and apparently he was a really nice guy. And I'm like, oh man, I sort of like those opportunities. You don't really get them, and they die and they sort of pass. And it's just yeah.
You can throw a curveball by saying you want to work with Matty Buck.
I want to work with myself. I'm a brilliant visionary. Goodness knows. I think there's more than enough of me out there with just myself, I think. Next question.
So I don't know if it's been asked, but maybe it has, but like, have you watched a B movie and just gone like, that is brilliant, like from a review standpoint, just like something that surprised you about B movie, basically?
Like a B movie or the B movie?
Like a non-indie kind of movie type thing.
Yeah.
Like, kind of like a Sharknado type video where it's like that.
Yeah.
Kind of funny.
When I see, the problem with me is that what I end up doing is that I end up buying a crap ton of movies from the pound shop and sort of like Russian roulette it. It's like, okay, how bad is this one going to be? Okay, it's pretty bad, but it's not bad in an interesting way. And then every so often you'll hit like a nugget of gold, and sometimes it will just happen by accident when you least suspect it. And usually it's the ones where I'm least suspecting that something is going to be completely just, what? Wait, what? Wait, this movie took a turn. Oh no! So there have been plenty of movies where I've sat down and watched them and like, okay, this is perfect. This is. I think with me it has to be something that has to strike some sort of chord with me on some level to talk about it at length. You sort of when you get to sort of where where you're sort of comfortable with reviewing, you sort of know. I think a lot of reviewers have this, where you sort of you look at the material and you think, oh, this really sort of plays towards me. It really fits my strengths as as a creator and all that. And there was the most recent example I can think of relates to Diamanda here, in that she wanted me to review in our long-running series of Paul Matthews reviews, Breeders, and this was actually a remake. And I said, okay, it's a remake. For research, I'm going to check out the original movie. And I was talking to you, and you're like, no, you don't have to seek out the original. I'm sure it'll be fine. I'm like, well, go and check it out anyway. It's a movie called Breeders. I wonder what that's like. Turns out the original version is basically about 2 inches away from softcore porn. And I'm watching this really amateurish, terribly acted, blatant rip-off of Alien and Life Force that's 60% an excuse for women to go completely stark naked. And I'm sort of watching this with a sort of halfway between mortification and halfway between this is a brilliantly undiscovered bad movie that everyone appears to have overlooked. In this, there are scenes like there's a bit where one of the actresses, to use the loosest possible term of that phrase, they're having a photo shoot and everyone leaves the room for lunch except her. And of course she needs to relax. So she's sort of in bra and panties, but when you're doing aerobics, sometimes you just find that a little bit stifling. So of course, as everyone does, you just disrobe naked in the middle of this photo shoot by yourself and just start doing aerobics on the floor. Everyone does that, according to the movie Breeders. And there are whole scenes like that in the movie where one of the characters comes back home, they start cooking something in the kitchen. And of course, she's about to go into the shower. So where of course do you disrobe for the shower? You of course do it in the kitchen while you're cooking. The whole movie is like this. And that's before the finale that copies Life Force. So there's a naked woman. Women get possessed in the hospital and they start walking out completely naked. I think everyone would notice if this would happen. It's like, there's a naked woman in this hospital corridor. That's a really weird thing.
Except maybe in Holland.
Yeah. So, and of course, the two main characters, there's a cop and a nurse who are sort of investigating it, and they follow the naked woman. It's like a breadcrumb trail, and it turns out that this naked woman, hey, Welshie! Arrived just at the right moment.
What did I say?
No, I'm talking about breeders and naked women. They follow this naked woman, and it turns out that they're in this underground lair where there's a pit, or sort of more like a tub, of about 6 naked women cavorting around in KY jelly that's supposed to be alien spunk. And this is how the movie, this is the setting for the climax of the movie, as it were.
Climax.
Oh my!
So somehow, we've ended up with this backwards, where I'm probably going to end up reviewing the film that you'd be more likely to review, and we've ended up reviewing together the one that I'd be more likely to review.
Can't wait to see it.
But yes, this is the most recent example of a sort of B movie where I go, oh, this is perfect. Well, except for all the nudity, that's going to be a pain in the arse. I think I'm going to have to censor more nudity in this episode than I ever have done cumulatively in 8 years of doing videos.
Have you watched porn?
Yes, don't remind me, Welshie.
Whenever I watch a lot of films, and generally I put them into 3 piles after I've seen them. Either sell, keep, just for my own clip, either I get useful clips of them, or I really like the film, or review list. I have about 200 films on my review list. Generally, it takes ages for a film to go on the list to get reviewed, because it's such a big pile, and I always take ages to do an episode, because I like to take my time with them. But one example I can think of where I watched it and I needed to review as quickly as possible, and that was Vikingdom. And that one went from a vlog, watching with vlog, to finished in, I can't remember exactly how long, but not very long by my standards. But in my defense, it was a Malaysian Viking film starring Dominic Purcell, and it involved Thor trying to kill the Christian god. It was awesome.
You know, I'm not going to lie, my head is full of Matthew and boobs, so I don't... What was the question again?
At the same time?
Yeah, Matthew with boobs, I don't know. It's also confused.
Now's the chance.
What was the question?
Are there any B movies that surprised you and turned out to be very good?
No. Any others? Any more questions?
Anybody else want to answer that question?
May. Yeah. Has there been anything that, for the most part, that you've reviewed in the past, or failing that just something you've watched, I'm mostly asking about reviewing, that you thought was bad, so you gave it a bad review, and then years later you suddenly watched it again and you're like, hang on, this is actually good now, I actually like this now. Have you ever that ever happened? Sorry about the jumbled up question there.
I've had the reverse. When I read the 5th Harry Potter book, I thought it was the worst thing I've ever read. So when I came back to review it later, I was like, this is actually okay. I've possibly been hating this for no real reason for a long time. So the film actually turned out to be the best of the set, I thought. So that was good. Regard.
Back in the day, I did do some film reviews, and I remember having watched Existence years and years and years previously at a party or we were drinking, so I don't really remember. I remember it was weird and crap, and I was like, oh, it's weird and crap. People can make fun of that on the internet. And then I watched it again, I'm like, oh, it's really good. I get all the metaphors now. Oh well. Weird and crap.
Nothing really from sort of I can't think of any really even bad movie beatdown where I've sort of massively changed my opinion on something, because it's very difficult to review a movie that you've spent so much time with in that sort of fashion and not, sort of know it's inside and out by the end of it. But there's been a couple of times where I've flip-flopped on stuff. There was notably, the most notable early example was Transformers Revenge of the Fallen, where I had an especially bad day and I wasn't... You know how you sort of, you get one of those days where you sort of watch something, you put something on and you're not really giving it your full undivided attention, you're just sort of letting it wash over you. I think I was really like that on that day. I was just not, I was giving that movie a very easy pass. So when I sort of went back to revisit it, sort of as okay, enough people are saying this is bad that maybe I could do an episode on it, and I was giving that a very easy pass. There was the first time I watched Prometheus, if you watch my projector review of that episode, you'll notice that I'm, suffice to say, a bit more positive on that movie than I was the second time around. The first time I was, I'd just recently seen it, I hadn't sort of like, okay, maybe there was things that I didn't really understand about it, maybe the things that didn't make sense were just, I just had missed details. By the time I got around to doing the full bad movie beatdown hour-long review, I think that feeling had crystallised into, no, this movie is terribly written and full of plot holes and makes no sense, and it's not because I was too dumb-headed to notice them the first time around, it's because the movie was thick-headed the first time. There was a very mild example where the first time I saw the Jason Statham movie, The Mechanic, which is a remake of the Michael Wynn and Charles Bronson movie, when I saw that when I was at uni, I nearly fell asleep during it, and I had a really negative opinion of that movie for a very long time, and then I just caught up with it on TV. I think I must have, because they did the sequel that was almost nothing to do with it, many years after it came out, so I decided, okay, let's watch it again, let's give it a second chance. This is actually right. I don't know why I disliked it so much the first time. I just must have caught me on an off day, but most of the time, I'm fairly consistent. I usually know what I'm thinking normally.
I've never changed my mind. I don't recall ever changing my mind on a thing after I reviewed it.
I don't know.
Oh, I don't think Mike, do you have anything to ask? You haven't really yet.
Yeah.
I think Batman Forever kind of gets a lot more hate than it should, but I'm not sure whether that's because Batman and Robin is just so much more bad at following it, and you've got Jim Carrey and Tommy Lee Jones hamming it up to ridiculous degrees, but I think Val Kilmer isn't terrible as Batman. So yeah, whether it's just the fact that it is in the unfortunate position of being between the Tim Burton films and then the awful Batman and Robin, but I think Batman Forever deserves a bit of love. Anything else?
In hindsight, from my question, I realised, thank you for the answers, by the way. I realised as you were answering that probably if you were reviewers like you are, you'd probably watch something at least once normally, and then you'd watch it reviewing anyway, so you'd be paying, you wouldn't review something from the first time you watch it anyway.
I've done that.
Oh, yeah, I've done that.
Well, I do that all the time.
Yeah.
I've regretted doing that
Sorry
each time.
I've stolen the second question.
I've regretted doing that every time. It's a terrible idea, because usually you end up with something that you wouldn't have normally chosen. If you just, on occasion I've chosen something just by the title. Always regret that.
If you hated it then, you'd focus on every single thing it did wrong, and then you'd miss the things that were actually the better side of it, for example. Because you might watch it again and think, oh, I didn't notice that bit before. That was actually something they did wrong, and you missed it in your review.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. With the projector reviews, that is literally me sort of only seeing something once and sort of recounting from memory. So I actually do the sort of once and done all the time. But with Bad Movie Beatdown, yeah, there is a sort of process where I will sort of watch something cold the first time, so I'll watch it normally, and then I'll have the thought, okay, this might be something I could do on the show, and then the process typically is that I will then put it off for months, if not years at a time, because I am terribly procrastinate, and then I end up having to watch it again to refresh myself. But should that not happen, the next stage should be that I will, typically how I script an episode of Bad Movie Beatdown, it differs from a lot of other contributors. A lot of other contributors, they watch the movie and they do notes during the films. That's how Doug does it. So for Nostalgia Critic, is that he does notes and sort of, you know, he will go back to those notes and write the script around that. And that's not how I work. What I'm doing is that I will be watching the movie, and as something comes up, stop, recap, joke, and then that process will repeat until that script is complete. And you know, it's deliberately designed to be a bit more thorough and it's me trying to iron out as many kinks and like, okay, making absolutely sure that I've, you know, dotted all the I's, paid attention to the details, and you know, that's generally how I sort of do notes. And because we did the crossover together, and probably the notes that I sent you for that review, which was 7 pages of just bullet-pointed notes.
It was a lecture.
You could have done a review simply from those. So.
When you finish.
Oh, I'm pretty much finished, but that's sort of my process when it comes to watching. Oh, and of course, then you have to watch it again because you're editing it, and then you have to sort of, okay, you need to reconfigure this bit here or reconfigure this bit there, especially, you know, to counteract stuff like content ID. So yeah, you're always thinking, okay, how can you make this clip shorter, more succinct, get straight, you know, to the point a bit more. So afterwards, I'm probably sick to death of the movie. There was definitely reviews where I was like, okay, I'm really done. Especially Transformers. When I did Transformers again, I didn't want to see anything Transformers related for a very, very long time, because each time I would upload that review, someone would go, hey, you got this thing wrong, and then me being a stupid perfectionist, I would go back and correct that mistake. So that process would keep happening over and over and over again.
Well, with the notes-taking idea, yeah, pretty much, most people do it that way, the way he described. And I personally, I watched the film twice for notes with 2 different people, trying to be as far apart with the notes-taking as possible, so that I forget what I wrote, what I came up with in the first set, so that they're as unique as possible. And I work from those 2 notes to make the script, usually spending 6 to 8 hours, no, actually more like 10 to 12 hours on the script. And then I continue to rewrite while I'm editing, adding a hell of a lot of extra stuff, reworking stuff, coming up with ideas, because I'm constantly convinced my stuff is terrible, and the more jokes I can put in there, whether they're good or not, the better. Anyone else want to?
Yeah, what movie or book, if someone said, I have this, do you want to watch this, or I have this book, do you want to read it, what book would make you go, yes, for goodness sake, please give it to me, like, I can't wait to watch it again or read it again?
Well, for review purposes, if someone offered me a copy of Begotten, I'd be really happy, because that goes for about £200 to £400 generally. It's really hard for. It's actually out for free on YouTube, but I want to get a hard copy of it to review it. But that would be my one.
I could download it off YouTube for you if you like.
I could download it too, but I want the DVD.
No, that's fair. That's fair. I can understand that logic. I'm trying to think. See, because I've got to the point now where I've got so much stuff, and so much stuff that I haven't actually watched, because I keep accumulating stuff. It's like it's kind of getting into hoarder territory here. So it's kind of like, well, I'm not sure if there's anything at the minute that sort of would make me dive out and go, okay, I need to do that right now, immediately. I want to watch that right now. You know, there are movies that I really, really like and really enjoy, but nothing's really jumping out at me at the minute, because I'm always sort of like, well, I've got to work on this thing, and I've got to work on this thing next. You know, it's really irritating in that sort of regard. And so there's nothing sort of jumping out at me at that question, but there are definitely sort of like loads of movies that I've got sort of like earmarks, as it were, that are sort of like, if someone came up to me and was like, hey, I want to do a crossover on that movie, I'm like, yeah, okay, that kills 2 birds with 1 stone.
That's really hard, because I have so many books and other media. They're like, oh, I'll buy this and I'll get it off Amazon and I'll totally read it, except that will never, ever, ever happen. Mm-hmm. I just bought the first book, the 5th season, by I can't remember her name, I just followed her on Twitter. The woman who just won the Hugo for the 2nd time in a row. And apparently that's really, really good. So I'm gonna, before I start reading it again in next remix, I'm gonna read it, I promise myself.
So is this specifically in regards to rereading stuff, or?
Well, yeah, you can reread, rewatch, whatever, yeah.
I mean, if someone were to offer me the complete works of Bernard Cornwell, I definitely wouldn't say no to that. Because that's bloody expensive, but also awesome.
I think for books and movies for me, Jurassic Park is just the go-to. I could rewatch that just on loop almost. The book and the film seem to be like really different. Have you done those?
I have.
You have
I've done that one. Yeah.
Do you agree?
Yeah, I guess the film's better than the book.
People die who live in the book and vice versa. There's a lot of...
Samuel Jackson's character, the only character who dies in both versions, ironically.
Ah, okay.
But
and Hammond dies in the book?
Yeah, Hammond dies. Yeah. He's actually a complete dipshit in the book. He's a right arsehole. He blames everyone for his mistakes, including his grandchildren. He's a really nasty person.
Well, yeah, but who likes Lex to begin with?
Well, that's true. But Lex was the younger child, and the kid was the boy was the older one in the book. They switched the ages around.
That's right. In the sequel as well, I think there was 2 kids, and they kind of combined them into 1 kid as well. So
kind of, yeah, because Grant he has like 3 children in the book.
Yeah.
So they all got combined into a single child. I was like, wow, that's a bit mean.
Yeah, we're just talking about Jurassic Park now,
basically.
So, yeah.
But Grant liked children in the book. The whole thing about him was like, oh, I hate children. Oh no, I have to look after them. I was like, no, I fucking love children. They're awesome. They sort of just had to add in daddy issues for some reason.
It's always the daddy issues.
Something interesting I found out not that long ago about Jurassic Park that a lot of people don't know is when they're hacking into the computer system and they have that 3D environment, and just like, I know this. That's a real operating system that was actually in circulation at the time, but it was only available to like CAD houses and things like that, and it was a 5 to 6 figure computer system where they were like, we want to make this as fancy looking as possible. And so how the hell could she possibly have known that? And
she's a hacker, obviously.
But it's real alone is fascinating.
Seems like she was the kind of character that Hacker Man in Kung Fury was parodying.
But he hacked too much time there. Any other questions?
I know that Film Brain has recently been re-editing a lot of his older Bad Movie Beatdown videos and sometimes adds like new audio. But as a general for all who care to answer, are there any videos that you have ever thought about remaking or can look back and say, I think I can do this better?
Yeah, almost all of them. I definitely intend to redo Starship Troopers, The Neverending Story, and James Bond, GoldenEye. And those, I was okay with the Starship Troopers and Neverending Story, but I think I could do them better with GoldenEye. I think I dropped the ball a little bit. Not GoldenEye, sorry, Goldfinger. But either way, yeah, I could definitely do that one. If I had a second chance at that one, I'd definitely get redo. So at some point, I'm definitely going to do those 3.
Yeah, the very first infomercialism episode I made was on the slap chop, and it was basically me on the sofa with a chopping board here whilst trying to use the slap chop. It probably didn't help that the product was awful anyway, but it was trying to use this thing on my knee and it just falling all over the place. So it was probably not a hugely fair review of it. I mean, it was a bad product, but I should probably go back and do that at some point, even though Vince Offer, the guy from the slap chop commercials, has repeatedly tried to not sue, but he's threatened me with legal action, so I'm in a dicey position with Vince, but...
Dicey?
Yeah, hey. Intended.
I did a review of the Sesame Street movie, Don't Eat the Pictures, years and years ago, because my father emailed me and he said, do you remember that Sesame Street movie you used to watch all the time? Because it would only come on once a year, so it was kind of like a big deal. If you want to stay up late, you could watch it. And he said, oh, a friend of mine has it in a file. I'll turn it onto a DVD for you. So I had a copy of this. I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, cool. But I went for like the kind of, take the piss, take the mickey kind of thing. But now I really wish that I would have done it just analytical. And I still might at some point. Just because looking at all the good and the education that Sesame Street like secretly brought to people, so.
Yeah. As you said, I've been going back through my videos to try and get them back up on YouTube, and it's really been kind of interesting doing that, just sort of seeing that sort of progression, especially because I'm editing them out of order, really. I'm just sort of editing them as I go along, sort of putting up old videos when, you know, they sort of tie into something. So it's very weird seeing you know, me change, looking ridiculously young and flop-headed in you know, just what is going on with my hair in some of those old videos?
It has a life of its own. It's abandoned you.
I watched I hadn't seen the Van Helsing episode in a very long time, and oh my god, my hair in that video! It was like I had not gone to a barber in about 3 months. It was bouffant. What the shit was happening there? But anyway, going back through those videos, I actually found that a lot of them held up better than I thought they would. I think that there's areas that you could definitely improve upon. The fact that for the first couple of years I was filming with a mini DV camera, and you can clearly tell. And the mini DV camera, go back and watch all those videos. Watch carefully in the left side of the screen. That camera had a dead pixel for some reason. So there's a big red dead pixel that's especially apparent when blacks.
That's just a cheap lighting and you go and watch your old film.
It's not hard to spot once you see it. It annoyed the crap out of me for years. But a lot of the old videos, I think they work to a certain degree. I mean, you have to remember they're old videos, and I do get comments all the time on the old videos going, well, you didn't mention this. Oh, this thing that came out long after the review came out. Yeah, I'm not a soothsayer. I didn't have a crystal ball. There was the Doom video. When I reviewed Doom, the video game movie, which is I would say one of the reviews that I would probably wish that I'd gone back to and done a little bit more in detail with. I made a couple of jokes that, oh, Dwayne The Rock Johnson, he hasn't really had the action movie style career that he really had done. And see, at that point, that joke made sense, because he was doing things like Race to Witch Mountain and The Game Plan. Of course, in 2017, where he's the biggest action star in the world, suddenly saying that he hadn't lived up to his potential suddenly sounded incredibly wrong. But, you know, but there are some of the early Bad Movie Beatdown videos, especially sort of the second year ones and the first year, there are ones that are far too sort of jokey joke, I found, that don't really have enough analysis of the movie properly. Nighthawks. There we go. Nighthawks is the one that I wish that I'd kind of done better the first time around. In this, Nighthawks is a Sylvester Stallone movie, and it's the first one I did for Stallone Month. And that review is actually quite short. It's not. I had problems with that movie, but it's not what you call a bad movie in the traditional parlance. It actually has quite a cult following, and so I don't think I was entirely fair to that movie the first time around. There's a lot of kind of cheap jokes in that episode that I wouldn't do, because the movie is bookended by scenes of Sylvester Stallone in disguise as a woman. Yeah, it is really weird. It's one of those weird sort of quirks about the movie. It's the first scene is that he's posing as a woman to try and get some muggers to try and attack him, and he turns out he has bricks in his handbag. And at the very end of the movie, Rutger Hauer's going after Sylvester Stallone's wife, and Sylvester Stallone is disguised as his wife. So Rutger Hauer's got the knife and he's about to stab her in the back, and then suddenly, Stallone in a wig! And so a lot of the episode is sort of geared around those jokes, and I'm just sort of rushing through the movie, and I wish I'd kind of, you know, just given a little bit more time for that to kind of breathe. But a lot of the old stuff, it does sort of stand up in terms of sort of jokes and analysis, but there are a couple of times where I'm like, yeah, lean less on the jokey jokes. You know, jokes are nice, substance is also great as well.
Yeah, though if I may say so briefly, I can't remember which one it was, but it was the one where you re-edited and completely redid the voiceover in a much calmer manner. While I've never disliked your, kind of rage phase of your videos, I did honestly find that redone voiceover to be a lot easier to listen to.
Oh yeah. This requires a tiny bit of backstory. In about 2000, second half of 2012, 2013, I was reading a lot of comments from people, and I was reading from places that I probably shouldn't. And basically they were saying that I was really boring and that I wasn't, acting convincingly, so I kind of took that on board, and I sort of became this weird, sort of like exaggerated pantomime version of myself that was just really angry and exaggerated all the time, and it got to the point where it was just kind of verging on the unwatchable, especially when I watched those ones back, and the one that you mentioned was, I put back up Strange Wilderness, the Steve Zahn movie, which is one of the Sandler episodes, and that was part of the year. Prometheus is part of that year, and a lot of the old episodes, I had this weird tick for years where I would keep dragging out sentences. I think that was because people couldn't understand me, so I was trying to drag out sentences to make it more legible, and that kind of just ended up weird. So when I've been going back through the old episodes, I've been, editing those out, try as best as I can. But sort of tweaking the audio slightly, and but those episodes, I'm actually just thinking of redoing the entire voiceovers, because they're, like you said, it's a lot more, it's a lot more tolerable. Especially, I kind of wish that I had the time to do that for Prometheus to a certain extent, because it's just a bit drony after a certain point. Just be really angry and exaggerated, and drawing out all my it doesn't sound exactly like that, but it was just really, it was just really shouty and aggressive, and it didn't need to be. It was me not having faith in the material that I'd written, because the writing in those episodes is fine. It's me. I'm the problem. It's all me, and again, those are sort of ones that I could think of as sort of ones that I was like, yeah, in hindsight, maybe tone it down a bit, man.
Yeah, it could have also been partially the times as well, because I think a lot of internet reviewers and internet reviewers started being kind of very raging based.
That was when Doug had quit the first time when he did Nostalgia Critic, and so I think a lot of people turned to me at that time. I think that didn't help. So
in this time of trial,
we need our rage quota.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I'm taking over this question.
Yeah, it's my fault because of that.
Generally, I hate all my episodes when they're up, because it's really, really self-critical. So, I would quite happily get rid of all of them and redo them all, but then I'd still hate them, and it's a lot of work, and plus, who's going to watch them twice? But
Naked Killer was fantastic. It was the best one.
Naked Killer was the best because you dubbed my voice. Listen to this voice.
What? I'm not a trained monkey.
Sometimes she makes me do this voice, but the best thing to do is when no one is expecting it, say something really dirty, like, oh, I get it, you're talking about your penis. Because then everyone looks at you because you said penis out loud.
Is that the Chad Brad voice?
Yes.
Yeah. I can tell by the Dom's reaction that he's not entirely upset by that. He's kind of into it.
Don't be turned on. Actually, I did a voice, and I was talking to my supervisor, and he's like, why'd you do that? Why? I was like, I'm funny on the internet. This is a thing that I do.
I'd just like to say that I'm loving Dom's facial expressions throughout this entire panel. I think he's just gradually realising what a bunch of weirdos he hangs out with.
I'm an academic.
But there is one film review that I wish I'd not done replaced any on my list, and that's Resident Evil. It's the worst review I did. It was very, very early. Well, you're allowed to be wrong. And I only did it because someone who was working on the show requested it. I had no interest in doing the Resident Evil film. I wasn't a massive fan of the game, didn't really care. I didn't want to, watch a 15-rated zombie film, but they wanted, and I don't think the episode's very good. But my 150th episode is going to be at the remake of Turkey Shit, which was my second episode. So I don't know how much I'm going to be able to do this, but I'm going to try and go from the blueprint of my original script for my second episode and see if I can remake my original episode into the new film. I don't know if it'll work. We'll see. But next question. Yes.
So, there's a lot of cliches in every form of media. You all do a lot. For example, say in films or film trailers after Inception, everyone had trumpet noise in it. What's the kind of one you hate the most? Like, what's the one you go, oh god, not this again?
Whatever's really popular at the time has just got really annoying. It changes over time.
I think the one there's a lot of sort of cliches that really annoy me. The sort of the things that I think of, sort of like the absentee father. Like you get a lot of comedies where the dad is shock horror. He's too busy to come to the recital. Oh no, what an arsehole for doing his job and providing for his family. But the one that really ticks me off is the Hollywood hacker. The persistent one that never dies, because apparently Hollywood is banking on the fact that no one uses computers and no one knows how they work, and every single time it happens, I find it utterly hilarious.
Even though they make films partly on computer.
Yes, even though films are almost now very largely digital, they still persist on doing this trope of a hacker who's basically 2 steps away from being a fucking wizard. So that's one of the... I recently watched a movie called IT, which stars... not to be related to it, the movie IT, as in information technology, as in... so it's Pierce Brosnan being terrorised by his IT guy. That's the precedent. This was a movie that was made in 2016.
Is the whole entire plot that he can't change the toner and the IT guy refuses? Because please tell me.
It's along those lines in that he's a bit of a luddite. He runs this company, but Pierce Brosnan, he's got an... are you leaving, Archie? Oh.
I'm going to the advisor. You can't come with me.
Oh, okay. I know you've got a train to catch. I'm just... So Pierce Brosnan runs this aviation company, and he has this terrible concept for an app that he's trying to set up. It's Uber for private planes. Who is this app aimed at? But anyway,
the President of the United States.
He's got this. He's got
one now.
He's got this app, but he's so bad with computers, he doesn't know how to work a fucking coffee machine. So he gets his IT guy to help him, and it turns out he lives in this house that's he's built from scratch. This house that's absolutely full of technology. It's got cameras built in the walls, even though he didn't ask for them to be in there. So it's just like, this is just like a giant red flag of things that someone could just come in and sabotage. And of course the IT guy turns out to be this creepy Cape Fear style guy that gets attached to his underage daughter. And so...
Who's the IT guy?
He's been in something, but he's so hilariously overacting in that movie, and I can't remember his name, but there's actually a full-on scene where they go back to his apartment, and again, cliches of Hollywood hackers, you know how everything like green code and all that? His apartment, his screens, he has like a multi-screen setup, just all over this wall, but he's also got a laptop in front of him, and the laptop, for some reason, is lit, so that when he types into it, it types onto his face, and it's all green. Like, the cliches have sort of compounded into other cliches.
Everyone's using DOS code.
Yeah.
Here's off with relevant.
He does DOS code. He DOS code hacks.
I gotta look this up.
I plan to review this movie. It is breathtaking, terrible. And and just in case you weren't clear that this was a terrible movie, it's from the director of A Good Day to Die Hard. Guess what? It's fucking terrible.
Kind of reminds me of The Simpsons Treehouse of Horror 10.
Which he was in!
It doesn't work.
Which he was in! So you're thinking of that?
Was that IT guy called Petra?
Yes.
It is Jason Barry, apparently.
Oh, is it Jason?
The famous Jason Barry, of course.
Oh, Jason Barry from Reanimator 3.
Of course you would.
And from Death Games.
Those classics.
Yeah, my supervisor in the shop is really into films and stuff
Oh no,
like
it's
that.
James Freckfield, sorry.
Oh no.
We actually have a saying when he'll say to me, "Have you seen this?" I'm like, "Well, let's say to him, no, but Zar's probably seen it."
Yeah, sorry, no, it's not Jason. It's not the famous Jason Barry. The famous Jason Barry is in it.
Don't want Jason's.
So
the more you know.
The main characters are Brosnan and the IT guy from what you can say.
And Anna Friel's in it.
And if James Freshwell is the IT guy, he is almost at the bottom of the cast list.
Yeah, he appears quite late. He appears fairly late into the movie.
On the subject of Pierce Brosnan, is anyone else looking forward to seeing Jackie Chan punch the Troubles in the face in The Foreigner?
That looks like it will be entertaining.
That's been
fucking
awesome.
It's a little too serious for Jackie Chan's usual thing.
Oh, Jerry Adams tweeted it, and he tweeted what he said was, if I remember correctly, I didn't realise Pierce Brosnan was so handsome.
So a trope that I don't like, and maybe I'll bring a new perspective to this. Have you ever noticed in a movie with straight people that there will be a certain point about a third of the way through where the one person will turn to the other and say, to the equivalent of, even though we've only stood in the queue at the bank for about 10 minutes now, already I have such great feelings for you. I hate that! I hate that. It's always one afternoon. In gay movies, there's a montage. There's a montage of several afternoons, maybe even an entire season passing, but straight people.
Lots of people dying, there's all these tracks,
Is this really how it is?
musical numbers.
How do people get anything done? You're falling for strangers in the queue. I need to know.
Mine is also romance related. I've complained about this in my videos before. It's the two people meet and they clearly hate each other from step one, so we all know what that means. They must be in love. Yes, because nothing like arguments and petty squabbles means romance. We just have at some point a romance where two people meet each other and they like each other and therefore they stay with each other instead of they've got to work through all this anger and aggression first. It seems unhealthy. It really does.
That sounds like every romance movie I've done, Bad Movie Beatdown. I mean, didn't I do Leap Year where she's going to propose to her boyfriend on Leap Day, and she spends a weekend with this guy that is constantly belittling her, and
well, it must be true love then, because he's a dick.
Yeah, he's a total asshole, and she goes with him.
So, well, I guess infomercials are just 2-minute cliches in themselves. But the worst ones are always in the first sort of 5-10 seconds. It will be a black and white shot of usually an old person sort of carrying a tray, and then they will go, I'm going to sit down with the tray, and then the tray will fall over. And for some reason, people can't just live in infomercials. They make up problems that don't exist, and here's the solution to this non-existent problem. So it's essentially the worst cliches are in the first 10 seconds of all infomercials.
I will let you know though, I am like that with the cling wrap. That's me. Like really, like there would be times when she would come home and I would be like thoroughly encased on the floor just so I was trying to wrap up leftovers and that just...
Is your life in black and white until the product comes along?
I've always wondered why everything totally shifted every time I pulled it out the drawer.
Well, just suddenly became in colour and you had this new product to use.
What is that? What a Sheila sketch about syndrome.
We're standing downstairs when we plays open for Bob's arm, were we?
The hand job
Was there...
Oh, you didn't hear that one, honey. You should repeat that with the microphone.
Because now I know that's New Zealand.
Repeat it with the microphone.
He'll get it when the video goes on YouTube later.
Was there a sheep? He said, was there a sheep?
I heard a joke one time on the show. Rob Wright said that... Anyway. Well, no, that was the joke. Because the only Welsh person I know is Rob Wright. So.
Next question.
You mentioned your hour-long bad movie beatdown of Prometheus. Are we going to expect a similar treatment to the new Alien film, Alien? I saw it a month or two ago. Covenant, thank you. That one.
Maybe. I can say that I've given some thoughts, especially considering that video was very popular, even though it was a projector video. That is now my second highest video on YouTube, and that was purely because I get the impression that with the Alien films and with Prometheus, because Prometheus had this big mystique of, oh, it's really intellectual, you guys, it's really deep and it's really smart. There was a whole... I would say that Prometheus was a big contributor to all those videos you see on YouTube now. Such and such, explain. Have you seen loads of these on your sidebar? Like, this movie explained. Pacific Rim explained. Does Pacific Rim really need explaining?
No, it's giant robots fighting monsters.
This is why I'm more clever than you.
Yeah, so you get
people who don't.
But I would say
in the film.
Those videos are basically there for people who don't actually want to watch the movies, but want to feel like they have. In which case, watch the movies.
Someone
someone needs to start an Explain series where actually they lie about the film and see what happens.
Like it's all about Cartesian duality, really. I mean, you can't see that. I mean, why?
They've escaped.
Sorry, I'm the kind of person who can really find a lot of analysis, even basic things like Pacific Rim, about like teamwork and overcoming differences. And
Yeah, that sort of stuff's there, but you don't need to explain it.
Yeah, you don't need.
The really good thing about analyzing things is you can pull anything out of your ass as long as it makes sense. I once, because I despised my English teacher, I hated this woman so much, she's a vile bitch, and there's a wrinkle right here on her face that's my fault. I once did a final exam on The Old Man and the Sea, retelling the story exactly from the point of view of the sea turtle that he encounters for one paragraph in the middle of the book, and she failed me, and I took it to the dean of the section, and he said, technically, she's right. She has analyzed this from the point of view of the sea turtle. So I gotta be out of it.
But yeah, I think a lot of the reason why those videos are so successful is because people go onto YouTube looking for Prometheus videos, and I think Prometheus curated this whole genre of, well, I'm so smart, allow me to explain the entire movie to you, and people were like, well, I didn't like this movie, I don't understand what happened in it, and it's not. Surely it's not because this movie is an incoherent mess. It is.
But you can't explain Prometheus.
Yes.
It is.
So I think the Alien Covenant video got very popular off the back of that because people saw that movie and they were like, well, I didn't like that movie and I don't understand why. And I think there were lots of reviews that sort of really went to town on that movie, and I can't entirely claim credit for being the only person that really stuck the boot into Alien Covenant, but I'm glad that video did well. It did more than it did, far surpassed my expectations. But am I thinking of going back to it? I'm thinking of going back to it. I think maybe in a little while. It's not. It depends. Maybe in the new year, perhaps. Give it a little bit of room from the original review because I think I did cover a lot of ground. But I don't know. That movie doesn't have as much rewatch value as Prometheus because it's so bloody nihilistic as well. It's really mean-spirited as well, which made it unpleasant to sit through, but I was pissed when I saw that movie. I was like, I really like this franchise. I wrote a dissertation on it at university, and this movie just pisses on it.
Just about the Alien films, I really wish someone would take it away from Ridley Scott and give Neil Blomkamp the chance to do his alternate Alien 3. And also, I would love for someone just to drive a dump truck full of money up to the director of The Witch and tell him that he can do a Rogue One style film about Hadley's Hope. You know, the colony at Aliens. Start it with them fighting with Newt's father getting face hugged, and end it with the Sulaco arriving.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't want to see that?
That'd be great.
Yes.
This another question. This one. Yeah. I mean, that's what you're asking those questions.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. Do you find it easy to sort of block out other opinions when you're reviewing, especially like because I'm trying to start a review channel, sort of, basically. Yeah. That's one of the things I'm doing. And there's one movie that I've already done a sort of trailer react to, and I've basically said, hang on, everyone's saying it's going to be rubbish before it comes out. It might not be. Actually watch it, see what you think. And now people have, including Doug, I think, have actually brought out reviews of it. It's a Tom and Jerry thing. And I'm trying to avoid actually watching reviews before I review it because I don't want their opinions to sort of affect mine. Is that the right thing to do? Or can you just block it? So
well, it'd be personal opinion, but I see no problem with that. Like, if I'm planning on reviewing a film, if there's someone whose videos I genuinely watch, and they do that film, I won't watch their review of it until I've done mine, because it's not because I want their opinion infecting mine, it's just because I don't want to accidentally echo any of their jokes. Like, with Lindsay Ellis, she did a Worst Witch review, and hers came out like a couple of weeks before mine did. And when I finally got to see her one, I was just really glad that the only bit of crossover with our jokes was comparing the people's love for Tim Curry with Biebermania.
Yeah, if I'm reviewing something and I know I'm going to be reviewing something, I tend to avoid seeing other opinions. Like I avoid watching the sort of Kermo review of things if I'm reviewing them on Projector until I've completed the episode and things like that. So when it comes to sort of bad movie beatdown, I tend to if it tends to be stuff that hasn't been covered by other reviewers a lot of the time. So I try to avoid. I try to research what other opinions are on the movie just to try and because I like to be a bit sort of definitive about it. But yeah, when it comes to sort of just articulating my opinion as sort of like a projector video, yeah, I definitely avoid other people. But I catch up with them later.
I really don't have that as a problem, so.
Yeah, I really do. I avoid other people's videos like the plague if I know they're doing the same thing, because I would, even if I've already kind of written the jokes myself, I hate myself if I know that someone else has done it as well, because I'm just like, am I still doing that for me? Am I doing it because I know they did it? It's a philosophy called formalism, I think, where you don't want to put anything in your own work unless it's definitely 100% come from you with absolutely no influence on anyone else whatsoever. So if I know someone else has done a video, I'll mock it for later, maybe watch it after I've done it. But yeah, I would really, really try and avoid watching anyone else's stuff because I consider myself very easily influenced, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be against it because maybe you missed something from your first viewings or you misinterpreted it or something like that. So it's just helping to maybe reaffirm your opinion, but if you're sort of watching something, you've got an opinion, and then it's swayed by what somebody else said, then maybe it wasn't a strong opinion you had to begin with anyway. So I wouldn't say it's a bad thing to necessarily gauge other people's opinions beforehand.
Okay.
Anything else? Any more questions? Yes.
Hiya. Is there anything that you've read or watched that you absolutely never want to review?
90% of everything I read or watch. Anybody good?
I can't really think of anything. Just the stuff that you suggest, and I'm like, I don't want to watch that tonight. We'll watch it never. I'm busy.
There have been definitely movies where I've sort of watched, especially with Projector, because the idea with Projector is literally just, okay, what's out in the UK that hasn't opened in the US yet? And so it's literally just sort of random, and it's sort of to keep me on my toes, as it were. But there are movies on sort of like touchy subjects where I'm very, very sort of ginger about it, and I'm sort of just worrying. I spend my whole time worrying that am I stepping on my toes here? Am I being an insensitive dick? And I spend weeks. You can tell the episodes that I've spent weeks worrying about because they're always the ones that are massively late. And but as far as never, I think some movies with really hard subject matter. I think especially in sort of the comedic bad movie down format. It's not to say I haven't done more serious films in that format and kind of treat them with a bit more gravity in that regard. But I think in terms of things with really sensitive material, I'd have to consider the case very carefully, as it were, I think. But I can't think of any specific example. I think a lot of the things that Brad Jones reviews, I couldn't review. I think I'm far too squeamish in that regard. A lot of things that Diamanda reviews, I'm probably far too squeamish.
Brad's a wuss.
Yeah, I'm probably far too squeamish in that regard. I'm not sure if I could watch really any sort of the Amazon cannibal movies that have a lot of the animal cruelty and stuff in them. I don't think I could handle that.
There's animal cruelty in my next review. It was not done by me, it was done by evangelical Christians. In real life, it was done by evangelical Christians. In the movie, it's done by Satanists. So the Christians really showed how evil the Satanists were by killing a goat, but they really did it. Great. Yeah, there's stuff I wouldn't want to review, and that's stuff that I don't have to my review list. When it comes to genres and stuff, I got no limits. I'll review, and I've done 3 Slaughter Vomit Dolls films, and each of them is an hour to an hour and a half of just dissonant noise, torture, porn, people pissing each other, vomiting each other, and I had to make them funny. Although the first one I realised when I was partway through the script that this was actually self-harm through comedy. I was not in a very good place when I wrote that script. And occasionally I decide to review something which no one else would touch with a massive stick. See, no one else, I can't think of anyone else who's done any of the Slaughter Vomit Dolls ones. And I want to challenge myself by reviewing Triumph of the Will. in their comedy style. I haven't done any work towards it, but eventually I want to, just to see if it's possible.
I'm almost morbidly curious because Matt's expression, yeah, that's just ooh.
Yeah, you brought us wrong. Oh no! But that was an icy chill going on my spine.
Well, like I said, it'd be a challenge.
Formidable.
Challenge to get through, probably.
Oh yeah. Next questions. You've had some questions.
How did you decide on your particular style of reviewing and what content you review?
My style was, well, I started back in 2009, so I was directly inspired by the first wave of these ones like Doug and all. And if you look at the way my show is set up, it's very traditional to that style. So you've got voiceover explained stuff, you've got jokes to camera, you've got music swaps. It's still very traditional. But I made everything else weird. Like, I looked at the stereotypes of that moment, where you had generally regular person in a t-shirt in their bedroom, sitting down talking to the camera. They also quite often had glasses. Even something subtle as that. So I took off my glasses, I stood up, I decided to make myself look as distinctive as possible by wearing horrible makeup and making the lighting go really weird and stuff like that. My idea was, whatever everyone else did, do it the opposite way, and at least that way you're memorable. And since then, obviously, Mr. Plinkett arrived, and other ones who do the same sort of nasty and dark sort of aesthetic thing. But I think I was, if I wasn't the first, I was one of the first who did that.
I think my aesthetic was sort of built over time, as it were. A lot of it was sort of, okay, how can we differ? Because my friends came up with the sort of concept of the show. It's like, okay, we openly admit that we were inspired by what Doug was doing, because I've been following Doug since the very early YouTube days when he had so much copyright problems that he would open a channel for every single video to try and get past the copyright problems, such as the days of YouTube. Oh, haven't we come far? And so me and my friends Chris and Lewis, I think in some ways our ideas were probably a little bit ahead of our time in this, not to blow my own trumpet, that's really overstating it, but the original idea was that it was going to be all three of us appearing in the videos, and that we'd sort of swap out and sort of interject our own commentary, and to some extent that idea has been seen in other video reviewers, and certainly that's been a mainstay of sort of film podcasts lately. You look at things like How This Get Made, that very much takes that sort of approach. And in the early days of my videos, I was another thing that was sort of like, okay, how can we lean this away from what Doug's doing right now? And one of the early things that you'll see is sort of skits and things like that, which ironically is now something that Doug does a lot now, and that sort of thing, the sort of thing that I don't do very often at all. So that's very sort of flipped round, and the real aesthetic was, okay, let's try and do movies that Doug wouldn't necessarily do, so things that were after the cut-off limit they'd set for himself originally, or things that were a little bit obscure and sort of outside of his traditional remit, as it were. And that's sort of how Bad Movie Beatdown sort of came out, and then the projector was just, okay, there's a bit of I can see a bit of a void here, in that there's movies it's sort of, the market is sort of shifting a bit internationally, so you've got things that are opened here that haven't opened in the US, and that's sort of become a lot more regular in recent years, just generally, I think, as the film market has moved away from the US and it's more sort of like global. And so it's just basically trying to fill niches that haven't been filled before, basically, and that's sort of, and you sort of find your feet, as it were, over a sort of period of time. And I wouldn't say that I found my feet properly until at least maybe a year or 2 years after I sort of properly got started.
I copied off her. Because I wanted to impress me. Yeah. I got a webcam, the guy did a thing, I got a lobster. Are you impressed? And it worked!
Were you impressed?
Reader,
yes.
Married.
Omega started off as a fan of mine.
So always pay attention to stalkery fans online.
It might turn out okay.
I can never really answer this question, because I swear I was doing my show long before it was a show. I was the guy who would go to see a film that was based on a book and just spend the entire car ride home just complaining about all the changes and all how it doesn't make sense and all the ramifications of the changes. So transferring what I was doing to film just seemed like a natural progression of it. It's like, was basically just an outlet for the sheer visceral anger that was welling up inside me. So I wouldn't say I had so much inspiration as I just followed the course that was naturally laid out for me.
I guess we've all kind of been there when we're bored and it's late and we're flicking through TV channels and there's infomercials playing. And there's the only trend they have in common is that they're all just awful. So it kind of just lended itself to being made fun of. And as soon as I sort of looked on YouTube, has anyone made fun of infomercials themselves? There's tons of people making fun of the products, but the infomercials themselves. And I couldn't find anything, but then as soon as I released my first infomercialism, I had about 3 people say, "You've stolen my idea, you're a terrible, terrible person." Yes, they just lend themselves so well to making fun of. So it just felt like something I had to do.
But had they actually put out videos where they were doing stuff? Or?
No, that's where I kind of differentiate a little bit. I actually spent money on these awful products and encouraged them to make more awful products. So I'm contributing to my own dismay. Yeah, not a good place.
Vicious.
Yeah, it is. Any other questions? Yes.
So obviously, we're coming towards the end of the summer. What are you looking forward to coming up, and maybe stuff to line away? Doesn't mean that to be like something good. It could be just like, I'm looking forward to this movie. It's going to be absolute crap.
Film people, because I never review anything that's younger than like 5 years. It looks interesting. Can't be any worse than the miniseries.
Do you think that scene will be in the new movie?
No.
That scene. I doubt it, because no one involved in the movie wants to go to special jail.
I have heard they had
everyone except Stephen King has better sense than that.
Yeah.
Because that's not something children should do.
I think.
What scene was this
Explain.
Tell us, Dom.
The kids having an orgy.
Well, yeah, what she said. Straight out. Yeah. They celebrated defeating the clown for the first time by having a prepubescent gangbang, basically, and it's the worst thing ever. And you have to read about it, and then you want to go and cry. And I did. In the shower. Didn't feel clean.
Mr. Ball.
Someone else take this microphone.
I think the directors.
I think in terms of things that I'm looking forward to, I'm trying to think of things that I'm really looking forward to. There's a couple of. I'm really looking forward to Thor Ragnarok. That looks like so much fun.
Hulk like raging fire.
Yeah, it looks really funny. It looks really sharp. It looks substantially better than the other 2 Thor movies. Not that I dislike the other 2 Thor movies, but it feels like they finally, gave it the jolt that it actually needed, and it feels like the kind of big, larger-than-life sort of cartoonish kind of movie that it, kind of wanted to be, but never quite found its footing as.
Hulk in particular is interesting because he's gone from speaking no words to knowing the difference between different types of fire, all in between the spaces of movies, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah,
character development.
For him, it's been about 2 years, I think, since Ultron. So I think.
So he's just spent the entire time just reading through the dictionary. Like, what types of fire can Hulk be?
Isn't he like different in other alien lands or something?
Yeah, well, Dom. If you are familiar with the comics, there are multiple personalities in Bruce Banner, and there are multiple Hulks. There's even Hulks which are as intelligent as Bruce Banner.
That's great Hulk.
So,
Did you just what actually?
yeah.
Actually, there's also instances of the longer he stays as the Hulk, the more intelligence he has, and he takes over the world at one point or something.
You see, he's actually squared. Awesome.
Can anyone cube it?
But nope. Okay.
Nope, no takers.
When it comes to films, I'm a massive MCU fan. I'm just looking forward to everything the MCU's doing, even stuff that looks like shit like the Inhumans. But when it comes to reviews I'm working on, I'm really looking forward to finishing off my feature-length review of the evangelical snuff thriller Remake. It's like a deranged snuff movie thriller crossed with an evangelical drama, crossed with a talk given by a really, really crazed anti-porn campaigner who makes shit up.
While high on acid.
You make shit up and you know his search history has some weird shit in it.
Probably. What sort of time is it?
I don't know.
We've still got another 35 minutes.
Okay. Next question.
Let's get some deep questions. Come on.
Have either of you two fellows actually watched any of the content from your cohorts?
I have, because it's slightly less traumatizing than watching the movie itself. Because at least I have a slight buffer involved there. It's still vaguely traumatizing.
They don't get fooled.
Are you just trying to make me feel awkward and say no?
Oh no!
No.
Fuck these guys!
I don't watch horror stuff or anything.
No, yeah.
But
smart choice.
Because as you go through and they're talking about things and your reactions, it's continuously better. Because you're like, what the fuck is this?
No, I can honestly say I've never heard of the things beforehand. Like, it's like you almost make your own content to then riff on it.
I should.
I'm feeling like we could introduce them to one of your episodes.
That would be funny. Oh, hey, Mike, do you want to do a crossover on, say, a little movie like Cockhammer?
Is it a family film?
The tagline is "Evil is uncircumcised."
So it is a family film.
Manson family.
Not a Jewish family film. You could do a review of the Ron Jeremy horror movie One-Eyed Monster.
Oh, that's amazing! I love that.
I have trouble believing this was genuine horror.
Horror, as it were. An alien invades his body, and he dies of a heart attack while he's filming a porno. But his engorged member is it inhabits his engorged member, and it kills people. Notably, it kills a guy on a snowmobile by severing him in half.
Just his penis?
Yes, it's a killer penis movie.
That is the second best.
And Ron Jeremy playing himself.
Ron Jeremy plays himself. The first 20 minutes of the movie with him in it are sort of like meant to be a satire of the porn industry. Yeah.
I shared a bed with him.
This is the movie I picked up in Poundland. It's
Does it walk
appropriately
the walls, though? Like...
much so.
I got this idea. For a little while, we should just mention actual real-life film and give the concept out that actually there's no that exists and see the reactions.
Replicator.
Replicator, yes, that's a good thing to start with. Okay, this is a movie that was literally made because they had a little bit of money and time left over after making another film, so they made it in like 6 days on some standing sets. And basically, the US military has created a teleporter. Unfortunately, there's a slight side effect. Everyone who enters a teleporter gets turned into a sort of blonde-haired bimbo. No matter what age, sex, race you start off with, he's turned into a bleach blonde, white blonde bimbo. And then then you're also a sex addict. And if you have sex, you turn into an alligator. And if the alligator bites someone, they turn into a gay zombie.
How much did you pay? Like a few pence for it?
Yeah, but I had to get it at yours because it was I couldn't get it sent to the UK for some reason.
This just turned into a mass porn watching session.
It's strange that for your next review in the bottom corner.
Yeah, that's End of the Wicked.
Where is it?
Bottom left.
That's the whole thing.
Oh yeah, because we just...
That's the whole thing.
Let's not watch that.
Yeah, let's... Please.
Damn it!
Let's do anything else.
Okay, next question.
Anyone?
What's your
Anything that's not
Sunday
involving porn?
afternoon?
Can you describe Chirpy to them?
Have they seen the show?
They have not seen Chirpy.
Should we show them?
I will go you just want to see us suffer.
Virgin right
I kind of feel like the guy at the back may have had a real question.
I love how I searched for that Pierce Brosnan movie, and it just came up with it. It just came up with that.
In honor of the fact the Death Note movie just came out from Netflix, have you ever felt betrayed by a franchise that you loved?
Death Note. You're fucked up, guys. It's not just that they're all like white now. It's also so stupid. They've taken two of the smartest characters in anime and manga and just made them so stupid. Just mistakes even I wouldn't make being a serial killer. And I'm not very smart.
I think the only thing they got right from what I've seen was Willem Dafoe's Ryuk.
Yes, that man can be Ryuk without CGI. He's a very scary man. If he gave me a note and said this will kill people, I said, I believe you, Willem Dafoe. Let's rule the world together. But You know, the battle of wits that was between the two smartest people in Japan became between an emo and a hipster of very average intelligence in America.
Below average.
Sounds like the average U2 comment wars.
Kinda. Yes. Wasn't so much a cat and mouse game of death as was just a flame war.
I've suddenly been reminded, with you mentioning Willem Dafoe, that one of my favourite early running gags from Mike's Shameful Sequels videos is the wearing tin foil over your head to prevent Willem Dafoe from possessing you.
He's a terrifying man.
Yeah.
He's a terrifying man.
Get out of my head, Willem Dafoe! Isn't that starting in Speed 2?
Speed 2, yeah, where he just laughs at everything and smiles.
Yeah.
With regards to sort of being let down by a franchise, I think Tremors 3 for me just kind of like crushed all hopes and dreams that I would ever be happy again. The first one is my favourite film. It's like a perfect mix of horror and comedy, and it's like one of the rare horror films where 90% of it is in the light. But Tremors 3 takes what was good about the first one, the lack of CGI, and just totally ruined it by adding CGI to absolutely everything. So a graboid will come out the ground, but yet the hole will just appear. It will just appear like this. It won't burst from the ground. So it kind of just took everything, and it just made it 100 times worse.
This has happened multiple times. Aside from the aforementioned Alien Covenant, the one that I can think of in terms of really ruining a really good franchise is I'm a big fan of the Die Hard movies. A Good Day to Die Hard is diabolical on many ways, but the fact that it's now a part of the Die Hard franchise, which up until that point had been a fairly decent series, even if you didn't like the fourth entry, at least that was a fairly solid, if ridiculous, action film in its own right, despite its egregious Hollywood hackerdom. On the other hand, A Good Day to Die Hard is one of the most incompetently made action movies in the last 20 years. It is fucking abysmal. Bloody Bruce Willis is so phoning it in, it is absolutely absurd. You can see the boredom in his eyes, and the plot makes no sense, because they didn't have a script when they started filming. They actually admitted in an interview, not making this up, that 2 weeks into filming, they hadn't decided on who the villain of the film was actually going to be. So the twist near the end of the film, where suddenly the person that the McClanes have been shepherding throughout the entire movie, it turns out he's the bad guy, that's the big twist. They hadn't decided that when they cast the actor or anything. They just walked up to the set, walked up to him on the set one day and said, "You're playing the bad guy." And he's like, "What?" And it's like the same reaction as the audience going, like, "What?" Because the whole movie builds up this one character as being the villain, and he's a crap villain to begin with, and then 20 minutes from the end of the film he gets shot in the head, and it turns out it's this other dude. And like, this is completely arse backwards. How? It's like, oh man. And it's that horrible car chase through Moscow that goes on for about 3 years and is horribly shaky cam. Everything in the movie is blue. Why is everything so blue, John Moore? What is this your impression of Russia? That everything looks blue?
He's not here, he can't hurt you.
But yes.
He's not in the audience.
But yes, that was terrible.
You know.
And it's John McClane's son, his son is this buff CIA agent that looks like Arnold Schwarzenegger, which is the complete antithesis of a Die Hard action hero. It's like, how can we make a Die Hard movie that has so spectacularly missed the point of why Die Hard was so successful and so liked by everyone? It's like, yeah.
Amusingly, in the original book that Die Hard is based on, Nothing
Yes.
Lasts Forever, the protagonist is pushing 70. It's actually a story about a geriatric senior citizen defeating a building full of terrorists. So yeah, that was more interesting to read about, to be honest.
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, I got you.
I want a remake like that.
I do love them because as you mentioned in your video, that Die Hard is actually based on a book by Roderick Thorpe called Nothing Lasts Forever, and they took the basic plot line of that, and that book is a sequel to a book called The Detective, or at least the film adaptation was The Detective, and that was previously adapted as a film 20 years before Die Hard came out, starring Frank Sinatra.
Yes, so basically Bruce Willis and Frank Sinatra were playing the same person.
Yes.
At some point.
Well, here's the funny thing. Frank Sinatra, when they were doing Die Hard, because he had like some sort of contract thing going on to do with that movie, that they had to offer it first to Frank Sinatra. So Frank Sinatra was offered Die Hard, and he said, "No, I'm too old." And the producers let out a collective sigh of relief of, "Oh, thank God, we don't have to make this movie with Frank Sinatra."
He would have been age appropriate at least.
So how old is Bruce Willis now?
He's about 60 something. So give him a few more years, he'll actually be age appropriate to play the role. Rebooted, cast Burton, it'll be beautiful.
I bet if someone made a film about, what was it, Nothing Lasts Forever, literally not call it Die Hard, but literally make Nothing Lasts Forever the movie, there'll probably be someone out there who has no clue about all that history and will just think, oh, they've just stolen Die Hard and made them older or something.
Rip off! You cast Bruce Willis again!
The most disappointing thing is Alan Rickman has passed, so you can't just remake Die Hard exactly as it is, but everyone is, what, 20, 30 years old?
If Star Wars has taught us anything, is death doesn't mean you can be left out of a movie anymore.
Look at Peter Cushing or whatever that thing was in Rogue One.
Like, get out of your grave and get in the movie. You lazy git.
Speaking as a 3D artist, my nightmare is literally bringing people back to life. They just burst out the editing booth and it's just like, I live.
Give it 5 years, that will be an actual horror movie.
Well, they've done it in South Park. All the holograms of the people brought back.
Oh, did they?
Gain sentience, and like Mark Hill Jackson goes out
and Tupac.
And Tupac,
and then him bursting out of his coffee going, "Must crush capitalism."
I remember Snoop Dogg did an interview. It was like, yeah, man, me and that hologram, we spoke about the afterlife and stuff afterwards. Although I was really high, so I could have just been to a lamp.
When it comes to when it comes to adapting novels that were different types of screen media, there's one thing I'd love to see, and this isn't original novel, this is going the other way, but you know how Red Dwarf started off the TV show, they became novels, and the novels were much darker and more weirder. Well, I would love to see film adaptations of the Red Dwarf novels that are nothing like a sitcom, that are accurate to the novels, like, and maybe also accurate to the original concept of Red Dwarf, where Lister was like a 45-year-old ex-drug addict, where his mind was scrambled by drugs. He wasn't just a slob, he was a complete burnout. Stuff like that made Cat look more like an actual feline, you know. I think it would be absolutely fascinating. Like, well, the original idea for Rimmer was to make him black and white, but they couldn't do that because they would have to paint him green for the filming, and that was just a lot of trouble for a sitcom. I think that would be really interesting to see. Next question.
So, talked a lot about like bad movies and stuff. What's your bad movie? Like, if you can make one, or if you've ever thought about like making one yourself.
I've come up with a bunch of scripts for things. I've written several. A couple came sort of close to maybe starting, but they never did. But one that is still in the concept, but how to describe it? I got a bunch of ideas. I don't know if any of them are any more interesting than the other ones, really. There was one where I wanted to do a zombie film, but instead of the zombie virus being spread via bites or whatever, it was spread through sexual intercourse. But the zombies, but the entire thing, the point of the film would be to be pretty serious, because it would be, the main characters would all be sort of various forms of LGBT, and the zombies will only ever attack people of the opposite sex. And basically the idea is that you try to do a social commentary thing about the idea of corrective rape. I don't think I'm talented enough to make that into a good film that does what it's intended to do. So I need someone else to write it, because I would make it into a comedy.
Because that's the soundbite that's going to be the takeaway from this. Yeah, she said she was talking about making a film about corrective zombie rape. It's going to be a comedy.
That's how the book started. You all saw it.
That wasn't a boast, that was me knowing what I tend to do with films.
I'm just making fun.
I want to do a serious thing, but I can't.
I've just got too much joy in my heart. I see corrective rape and I just want to go. I just want to laugh.
Make everyone else laugh.
I've got ideas for stuff, but I've never been confident enough to really write them down properly. And are you leaving Welsh?
No, I am. Yes.
Yeah.
See you, mate.
Stay above the equator.
It's a lot of expensive machinery around here.
It's DMU, they got it at a bargain basement somewhere.
Nice to see you.
Bye, guys.
Lovely to see you, actually.
Hey, guys.
Cheers for the chat.
Round of applause. I've had ideas for movies, but I never felt confident enough to really put pen to paper about them. And so yeah, I've never felt really confident enough to actually talk about them, or sort of do anything about them. I've had them sort of there, but I'm sort of I don't know. But as far as making like a bad film on purpose, I don't think most bad movies are successful by into the fact that there is a certain sort of sincerity about them that people genuinely thought like, oh, this is this might be my masterpiece. The archetypal sort of Ed Wood, Whereas I think there's a difference between stuff like that and say the later, just the general sort of Sharknado kind of vibes, like, oh, we're gonna. Especially the Sharknado impersonators, like Raiders of the Lost Shark, like, oh, we're going to make a bad movie on purpose. Like, don't do that. You're wasting...
Or on purpose. Sorry.
Yeah, I think it's just like kind of a waste of everyone's time to do it like bad on purpose. If you're going to do it bad accidentally. Do it the right way. Don't do it bad on purpose.
Yeah, that's the kind of problem I had with Kung Fury, because while...
Are you saying bad things about Kung Fury?
Turn on him!
Do you want to come down here? Say hack time, motherfucker. They brought a T-Rex into the present day and Thor.
I will admit there was some
predicting
amazing things in there, but as a whole, because it was trying to be kind of bad on purpose, it lost a little bit of its charm.
No, it didn't.
You're wrong, and you're a bad person.
I stand corrected.
You've spoken.
You sit corrected.
True.
I actually did have an idea to make a movie, and I will someday if I ever get done uni. And it's going to be called We're Making a Movie, goddammit. Because what you have to understand about living in Northern Ireland is the coastal region is fucking beautiful. Like, there's the Causeway, there's the North Coast up by Coleraine. We went to Arranmore Island, and you can't even imagine the kind of scenery.
It's the Iron Islands.
That would be a really great place to stage a movie about some people like us who want to make money off YouTube, like us, and we're going to make a goddamn movie to cash in on Game of Thrones, but we're really shit at it, just like in real life. And it would be like social commentary without the corrective rape, but also like really funny because we're really inept and it's everyone's YouTube experience, and it will sell a whole 10 copies, and we'll get our own IMDb pages coming this fall.
I mean, unfortunately, my terrible movie actually exists. It's called Retribution. It was a historical drama, and it's very hard to find because I made it my personal mission to find it and burn it. Because it was something I made in my university days that I was exactly what Matt says. I thought this was going to be my magnum opus. This was going to make people think, man, because it was about the peasants' revolt, but it didn't work, and that's, now, it's deep and shit. And I played 3 people in it because I thought putting on a helmet would disguise that, or shaving would make them think I was a different person. We had a limited amount of extras, and I died each time, and each time I did a girlier scream as I died. So yeah, none of you will find it, but it does.
Someone find it and give it to me.
Challenge accepted.
It's all been burnt now. They burnt away the sin.
Did it ever end up on the internet?
I'll get it out then. We've already made the bad movie ourselves as well. It was called Nerd Quest.
Available on DVD?
Yes, and
I
it
bought
was
2 copies by accident.
by accident. Well, thank you.
Yes, you may. It's in my part.
But we, it was kind of before HD cameras got affordable. It was like 2000. When did we shoot that? 2011.
Yeah, 2011, 2012.
Yeah. So most of the budget would have been gone in the cameras had we gone HD. But so we managed to go, I think, mini DV, and it's really not aged well. So it was on the cusp of everything going HD, I guess. Although we got a good cast together with Stuart Ashen and Harry Partridge and what's his face over there, and it was quite a good script. We were quite happy with the script. It's just that the execution maybe wasn't what it could have been or should have been. But I would love the opportunity to remake that with sort of more technology and sort of the experience gained over the last sort of 6-7 years. So should the opportunity come up, then yeah, I guess we could make NerdQuest 2 or the reboot or something like that. The NerdQuest, we'd call it, I guess, but...
Be really obnoxious and just call it NerdQuest, exactly the same title.
Just the same, yeah. NerdQuest 2018 or something, yeah.
Nerdier Quest.
This time it's even
NerdQuest
nerdier.
Though I will say, I slammed a tenner on the table to buy that movie, and it was worth every penny.
Well, that's good to hear, thank you. Maybe it's not that bad, although it was, wasn't it? It was.
It's a B movie, but I like it.
Yeah, it was good. It was definitely intended to be a B movie, so it's achieved its goal.
I've regretted many purchases in my life, and NerdQuest isn't one of them.
That's good.
You and your inflatable sex doll watching it together.
I kind of do want to know what you've regretted buying now, so...
Useless.
Any more questions?
Have you ever watched someone else's review and strongly disagreed with what they had to say?
No.
I'm going to review Dom now. He's a dick. Do you agree?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's kind of what I'm going for.
I've seen like video game reviewers like, oh, this game is crap, it's absolute shit, and off things and stuff, and I played. I'm like, no, I liked it. It's alright. Or like if someone says something about Dragon Age that I disagree with, like some reviewer. This was not on YouTube. This was a column review. Called out Dragon Age Inquisition for racism, and they said that the character Vivian, who is, she's a person of color, she is a terrible stereotype because she's not a romance option, and they said, well, oh, of course, she would be too ambitious to be a romance option, and all this other stuff, and they said that one of the holy characters, who's kind of a hypocrite, and that's the point of her character, she's also of color, oh, well, she's overly religious, and that's racist, despite the fact that Vivian is not a romance option because she's desperately trying to save her lover of several decades from a disease, and the Chantry are hypocrites. And I pointed this out in a comment and it got deleted, so I wanted to say about that.
There have been times where I disagree with other reviewers' opinions. I mean that's going to happen. I mean, you're on a site with 20 to 30 quite opinionated people in our circle. You're bound to happen to have disagreements. I wouldn't say we've had any violent disagreements. I wouldn't say I've been like, oh man, you really missed the point here, really annoyed me. It's just like, I don't really see it from that angle, but I can kind of see how you got to it. And, we're fairly chill with each other, despite our screw personas sometimes, I think. So, no, I don't think I've ever been really sort of disagreeing with stuff. I mean, because we have our own personalities. I mean, we're not automatons. We don't have a blanket. We don't have a blanket like of stuff that, like, oh, this person dislikes it, therefore everyone on the site dislikes it. I think, and that's what makes us interesting.
It would be very boring and pretty much agree. I mean, everyone else is allowed to be wrong.
I think disagreeing is important. You get different views from different people. Opinions not necessarily. There's no definitive answer to review things. The whole point of making reviews is you're voicing your opinion on something. So if someone else disagrees with me, I say, well, great. Then all the people who are having a go at me in the comments can go watch you instead. It's, if anything, honestly, I think if I always agreed with people, I'd probably respect them less. So I encourage people to have different views and different opinions than me.
Yeah, it only gets bothersome. It only gets annoying whenever some people are so in love with something or so hate it that they, for some reason, can't conceive of someone else honestly disagreeing with them, and so they suggest that you're lying for attention or some reason. And has anyone else got this? Because I've got this usually from mad David Tennant fans in Doctor Who.
I've had this.
I've never dared question David Tennant, so.
I've had this happen on a couple of my reviews, and you know, it happens occasionally. Sometimes, if I have an opinion that I remember, my review of Deadpool wasn't explicitly negative, but because it wasn't, you know, like raving like everyone was at the time, people thought I hated the movie. I just thought it was okay. I thought it had faults with it. I mean, I wasn't the same vibe, but it had, you know, I thought that it had the kind of some sort of the problems with superhero origin stories. The flashback narrative I thought was a little bit too conventional. I was sort of like, okay, can we get past this stuff and get to the stuff with Deadpool that I found, you know, a bit more interesting? But that was sort of my complaint with the movie. But one of my reviews, one of my very early reviews, for some reason I posted that on YouTube and it's taken a life of its own. The 2002 remake of The Time Machine. I get angry comments about that movie. I don't know why, but people get really angry and defensive about it, saying that that film's a masterpiece. No, it's not.
H.G. Wells' Truthers or something like.
I don't know. That movie has nothing to do with
there
the book
are
that it's
people
based
living
on.
below the earth, and you will find out soon.
Even though it's directed by his great grandson, well, about 3/4 directed, he had a breakdown during production, and Gore Verbinski replaced him.
Oh.
So even on that count, it's a little bit sketchy. But no, that movie is not very good at all. I'm going to reiterate this. It's still not a very good movie, in my opinion. But if you like things, that's perfectly alright. My opinion is not the definitive one. I don't claim to be definitive. I only represent myself. And I think a lot of the people here would agree that, you know, just because we don't like something doesn't mean you shouldn't either. You know, reviews are basically advice. You know, take it or leave it. And you know, if we entertain you, that's really the object at the end of the day, really.
There's, I think it's the Dunning-Kruger effect, where people, it's like being right and not admitting to that is more important than the truth. Being wrong is worse than, like, lying.
How did you put it? The name?
I think it's the
Dunning-Kruger effect.
Yeah, the Dunning-Kruger effect is where the less you know, the more
yeah, it's the same thing.
Google it. It's one of my favorite things in modern psychology. I worked it into my dissertations just so I could cite it. I love it that much.
Is that basically the same as a little knowledge is a dangerous thing?
Kind of. It's basically that you lack the meta-knowledge of your own lack of knowledge, but it's. I would say that there would be a certain type of person that would be more prone to it. Like, for example, I don't know anything about the internal combustion engine. I just know my car make noise. And then I go to someone like, make noise and squeak and just do something. And they said, oh, you need a new squidget and the new flange screen. I'm like, okay, great, just take the money, just go, just do it, I don't care. Like, but then some people will be like, well, I don't think so. I want a second opinion because obviously the flange screen is quite versatile. Or the people who tell their doctor, no, my diabetes does not come from the fact that I drink 10 liters of soda a day. It must be from something else. So it's so fascinating. I just love it. Sorry, psychology time over now.
Did you have Should we do one very final quick question and then we'll wrap this up? So,
what about the particular genre of movies that you review, each of you review, inspires you the most to make videos?
I think action movies and comedies are the ones that I naturally gravitate towards. I think those are the sort of franchise, those are sort of the particular genres that that I gravitate towards most naturally, and I think you can see that in the sort of things that I traditionally review in my videos. I think.
I don't really gravitate towards any genres. I gravitate towards individual films. So I tend to choose ones that I think are going to be something new for the audience. So I love finding films that are just completely unlike anything I've ever seen before, and I like telling people about them. And naturally, that means things that are horrifying.
Yeah,
for audience.
That's pretty much how I felt about Black Sheep, because I'd seen the premise, I'd seen a couple of clips, I knew it existed, but beyond that I knew nothing. But then I watched your review and was like, yes, just yes.
Oh, it's a great film, Black Sheep.
I've not.
When I first started, I thought the genre that was going to appeal to everyone was books that not many people have read. They'd be interested to find out what was going on in this book that this film was based on. But it turns out it's the really popular ones that people want to hear, because they don't necessarily want to learn about what the difference was. They want me to get angry about ones that have fucked up. So that's why I've been leaning more towards. That's why I'm doing Game of Thrones now, because it's not so much new information they're seeking. It's validation as much as anything else. It's okay to hate this because they did fuck it up.
Yeah. Though I will say, when you were reviewing the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy movie...
No, it was bad, shut up.
Yeah. I enjoyed it for what it was. It wasn't terrible to me, but
no, you
the
didn't.
minute I saw your review, I thought, okay, now I understand what you're getting at.
Yeah. It took a very, very smart thing and made it very, very stupid.
Yeah.
Early 80s TV version for the win.
Yes.
Yes.
For the not fail. As
It
bad.
was good. It was good.
It was better than the movie.
Oh yes, agreed.
Especially because most of it has been movie reviewing related, and you've not had a great deal. And there is some overlap. What's the worst thing you've ever eaten for the review or in general?
The worst thing.
If only Ashton's were here.
Yeah, he's eaten many a horrible thing. I've just done, this is not the worst, but it's the only thing that's kind of springing to mind, is I've just finished a week on canned food. So I ate nothing but canned food for an entire week. And it wasn't so much that it tasted bad, but by the end of the week my kidneys hurt. I think it's purely down to sort of the sodium that I was sort of having over the course of the week. So if if we ever are in an apocalyptic kind of situation where you have to eat nothing but cans, kind of don't. Find an alternative, because you will probably die quite quickly anyway.
Is there a result of cannibalism sooner?
Yes.
That will be us.
Yeah, on that cheerful final note, in the case of the post-apocalypse, thank you for coming. We hope we entertained you for the last 2 hours.